are your plans for 2021? Orange is for this project is a little dicey. I started writing this in high school. Hey there, my name's Nicole. I am a writer and story nerd, and welcome. So we are nearing the end of 2020, which is an awesome time for reflection back on all we achieved. And despite the fact that this was a horrible year, I was actually quite good for my writing. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through a Kanban board style of all my different projects that I have on the go right now, and then explaining how I hope to bring these forward in 2021. You see, I have the different stages of a project up here, planning, a bunch of different drafts, and then next steps. And then finally, I have this color code on top. Orange is for this project is a little dicey. Yellow is for I'm like cautiously optimistic, and then green is like I feel pretty good about this project and where it's going and the state that it's in right now. So the first one is Project Musical. This was my Camp NaNoWriMo July project, and I ended up finishing it November 1st, 2020, so it took a minute, but that's okay. It was about a girl who goes to an art school and she missed a semester and now she's back. Big mystery there, and she is directing a play, Antony and Cleopatra, as a sort of redemption. So that is in first draft, and I'm giving it yellow because I feel pretty good about it. It's a big project, so editing a big project like that I know will take a lot of work, but I feel pretty good about where it's at. Next is 1837, which was my Camp NaNoWriMo project in March or April. When was Camp NaNoWriMo? April? Oh dear. You can tell it was my first time doing it. That one I finished in June of 2020, and it was about two sisters who have very different journeys through the Upper Canada Rebellion, which happened in 1837 around Toronto, which is where I live. Now this one I have as an orange. It's a little dicey because it's a much more complex novel than Project Musical. It's about 25,000 words longer for one. It's dual perspective. It's historical fiction, which required a lot of research and a lot of work, and will probably require a lot more research as I go into next drafts of it. And it's also kind of a more complicated genre. Now what's interesting is I planned out 1837 using the story grid pretty much exclusively, whereas I did Project Musical using the anatomy of story and the story grid. And I actually think that the anatomy of story with the story grid worked a lot better for me. So Project Musical overall is just stronger as a story right now because it's an easier one, and I did know a lot more about how to write by the time I got to Project Musical. Even though I only wrote it a couple months later, it was a lot better. So then we have Coincident in Time and Space, which is a play that I wrote actually last weekend. I wrote about 9,000 words in 2 days, this entire play for this class that I had. And then I had to present it on Wednesday, so I had scenes from it read. It's about Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace, as well as Charles's wife. And I feel pretty good about where it is, even though I wrote it so fast. The feedback that I got from my professor was just like very, very nice, and he spent a lot of time in class kind of talking about it and telling other people like the visuals that I came up with, and it was such a nice class and such a nice feeling, and so I feel good about that one. Then I have my Christmas short stories. So I wrote the first draft of these about a year ago, just over a year ago now, and throughout this year I have written the fourth draft of my Christmas short stories, which is one of the furthest I've ever brought a piece of that length. It's about 25,000 words. It's more of a novella, honestly, than a collection of short stories. Then I have Sticky Toffee Pudding, which is also a play. I loved it. This one's a lot funnier than Coincident in Time and Space. I got good feedback in the seminars, and I feel pretty good about where it is. And then the last thing here, if you look at my video, it's called I Use the Story Grid to Edit My Scene, and I will put it up here again. I love that video. I think that's one of my favorite videos I've made, so definitely do go check it out. It is the first scene of this pirate romance that I'm talking about, and I started writing this in high school, and then I edited it like 2-3 years ago, and it's still turning around in my mind, sort of the world that the pirates live in. There's a lot of political intrigue, but I have the first 10,000 words of it written and then I didn't finish it. It's very kind of lighthearted and funny while still a fantasy. I think it might actually be a novella, and then I have other ideas for this world that could be more of a series type thing. Anyways, that's kind of in the planning stages right now. So that is something that I am planning and churning around in my head. So those are all of my projects from 2020. So now I'm going to talk about how I want this to look in 2021. Ideally. So here we go. Looking ahead to 2021, I want to take 1837 to a second draft. That is going to be a big deal. So I'm a little bit intimidated by it, but I think I can do it. I also know that some of it's a little bit of a mess and I'm going to have to fix that. But that is a huge goal for 2021. The next thing are the Christmas short stories. As I said, I'm feeling pretty good about them, so I'm moving them on to what I'm calling next steps. Now, I am not querying these. I'm not going to query a novella. I don't think at this point that I'm even planning on self-publishing it, but the next steps really have to do with getting more sort of professional, targeted feedback and mentorship towards it, and I have a specific plan that I want to do with these Christmas short stories that I'm not going to talk about now. With Coincident in Time and Space, as I said, it is in a almost finished first draft right now. I want to take that to a second draft. As well, I have next steps that I want to do with Coincident in Time and Space. Publishing of plays is obviously super different from novels, and from talking to my professor, he's given me a lot of insight into how plays can be produced and that kind of thing. So a big part of my plan is to follow kind of the advice and submission things that he told me about that I do not need an agent for. The pirate romance. So I think that this might be a novella, but I'm not entirely sure. I do want to take that to a first draft. So we have in first drafts right now, I want to take the pirate romance from the planning stages into the first draft stage. I still have Project Musical in the first draft stage. I want to take these two plays to the second draft stage, and then I want to do next steps on these. But that's not all. I want to get beta reader feedback on Project Musical and 1837. Now, I didn't write down Project Musical as a formal second draft. I think it's in much better shape than 1837. I will need to do some cleaning. There's a couple scenes that I forgot and a few places where I put insert name here that I'll clean up before I give to beta readers. But that's my goal for 2021, is to get it into people's hands and get feedback. And then finally, we have Sticky Toffee Pudding, which again, I'm going to be doing some next steps for that play. And the very last thing, I really want to start doing some travel and personal essays. I want to join Medium, or I have joined Medium, the partner program. I haven't published anything, but I have lots of ideas. I don't really have the time for it right now when I have my master's and my part-time job. But once I take on my full-time job in May, I think I will have freed up a little bit of time to actually post regularly. And I'm trying to decide, part of me wants to post things that are like computer science-y, what I'm actually doing in my degree, and I might do that, but I also want to do potentially some personal things. And then I've wanted to write these travel essays for a really long time, and I have some ideas of where to submit them. So that's another big goal. So this looked like a lot of stuff. Is this realistic? Well, okay, 1837 is my #1 priority. That is going to take a lot of work and time. I have no idea how much time. I might be working on it the whole year. So there you go. But that is kind of my thing that I want to do this year, because I want to prove to myself that I can make it better. Then we have Christmas short stories and Sticky Toffee Pudding. Because those two are in a state where I feel like they're the best that I personally can get them, at least right now, I am going to move on to next steps with those, and I don't think that that will take up too much time. I'm not querying. It will take time, but it's more admin work than writing work, so I feel like that's kind of doable. Coincident in Time and Space is priority #2. There is definitely work needed there, but with plays, I think my play is like 8,000, 9,000 words, and it's already probably 45, 60 minutes. So definitely an hour. It's definitely an hour, the first act, so I just need another like 45-minute second act, which is like 5,000 words. So there's not a huge amount of words that goes into this. Obviously, submitting it next steps is going to take a little bit of time. Again, it's not a huge thing to overcome, considering I wrote the play in a weekend. I just need another weekend, basically. Project musical, getting beta reader feedback won't take that much time. I do have to do a few fixes. Again, that should take me a week or so of working on it. Then we have the personal and travel essays, which is my third priority, which won't kick in probably until June or July of next year, and I won't give it any thought till then, but that is on the list. And then we have the pirate romance, which is potentially going to be my NaNoWriMo project in 2021. If it's a novella, I will, again, not get 50,000 words, but what else is new? And there we go! So those are my plans for that is my 2020 wrap-up and my plans for 2021. I think that I have too many things on my plate, and there's a lot on here, and I doubt that my board at the end of the year will look the way I want it to look right now. But that's okay, we're shooting for the stars, we're landing on the moon, and I'm really excited for all the things that I have coming up in 2021, and really happy about all the stuff that happened in 2020. So please let me know, what did you get done in 2020, and what are your plans for 2021? And what do you do to sort of track your goals? Do you use more of a Kanban or a to-do list or a calendar? Yeah, I'd be really excited to hear about that. So that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are liking this and you are not subscribed, definitely come join the community. I will see you next time, hopefully with a Christmas themed write-in, potentially a live stream. It might just be a video. But thank you so much, and see ya.